My wife divorced me, went on vacation with her affair partner, thinking she'd get my parents' trust fund, but instead, she got a lawsuit. Hello, I'm Aaron, a 30-meter person, and I'm just going to try to write everything down here. I've known my pals have been friends with me my entire life because they claim that I'm the trust fund baby. They always attempted to get close to me, assuming I would be sponsoring alcohol at parties and holding extravagant parties all over the world. But every time I proved to be nothing like that, they abandoned me. My parents do have a sizable trust fund for me, but I am aware of how hard they have worked to earn it. I am aware that money wasn't created overnight and that my father's business may be destroyed by a single error. I therefore put a lot of effort into building on what my father began every single day. But I came so close to making that one error recently. I didn't date anyone while I was in college, except for Ashley, my wife, the love of my life, and 28F. I'm not the kind to casually date or hook up with women. My goal was to date in order to get married. But I drew all the wrong kinds of company when word got out about my parents' wealth. You know, having money makes you popular and makes others want to live off of you. I did occasionally sponsor alcohol and lend money to some of my friends, but nothing extravagant. Nothing that one would anticipate from a trust fund baby. I think it's okay to do things in moderation. In fact, it's crucial because you have to be a member of society. I therefore made an effort to be liked by everyone, although I hardly ever trusted anyone. I met Ashley at my graduation celebration. I struck up a conversation with her informally as she didn't seem to know me. We hit it off right away. After exchanging phone numbers, I took her to McDonald's for our first date. We had an incredible time. I fell in love and she didn't seem to mind that our first date wasn't particularly spectacular. My first love in life was Ashley. She wasn't dull and didn't seem to be making a concerted effort to win my approval. She was just being herself. She was also incredibly intelligent. I seemed to obtain an image that was beyond my budget while I was with her, and I felt normal. She didn't seem surprised at all when I took her to meet my parents after we had been dating for a month. She seems to agree that I was wealthy and impartial. That gave me hope that she wasn't at all put off by my money. She probably wasn't surprised because that was part of her strategy from the beginning, but I didn't realize that at the time. Winning me over was a well-planned tactic because she was well aware of who I was and that I was not seeing anyone. When she met with my parents, she exuded elegance. I fell deeply in love with her because she was so charming. The first female I ever took home was her. My parents were ecstatic about me. She never took any expensive presents from me during the year we dated. The fact that we weren't yet married was the only explanation for her refusal. After a year, I asked her to marry me. She was my parents' ultimate sweetheart. Since she wanted to work to increase our wealth, she told my parents that she only had one request and that they never asked her to quit her job. My mother gave her a hug and expressed their happiness that I had found a wife who was so encouraging. Ashley earned a respectable salary while working for an IT company. My parents threw a party for our second anniversary. They declared their intention to offer Ashley a present and suggested adding her name as a beneficiary in addition to mine. They introduced Rob, the trustee, and Ashley to everyone else. He worked as an accountant for the business that managed the investments and money's legalities. Rob had a daughter and was married. His spouse practiced law at the same firm. My wife's name was listed as one of the beneficiaries, and everything was handled. Ashley had a great relationship with my parents and always tried her hardest to make them happy. As part of her career, she also traveled and worked a lot. Later on, I discovered that whenever my parents hosted a party, she would travel with her affair partner. She constantly wanted to go and looked beautiful. Numerous times during these parties, I witnessed her conversing with Rob in a corner while blushing from the wine she was holding and laughing a bit too much. And even though I was naive and infatuated, I never once considered the possibility that she might be having an affair with Rob. However, these two had been having an affair behind my back the entire time. In retrospect, Ashley surprised me. She is a true professional actor. The idea of ever suspecting her felt sacrilegious because of how beautifully she treated each of us. She was merely waiting though. My parents died within 6 months of one another, about 7 years into our marriage. It was simply too hard to manage all the emotions and still keep the business operating, so I threw myself fully into my profession. Ashley began revealing her actual self for the first time in years at that point. She remained aloof after the funeral. I attempted to give her space since I believed she might be coping with her grief in her own manner. She didn't inquire about my well-being or mention anything about the death of my parents. I found that odd, but I also subconsciously chastised myself for not being able to express my feelings. It took me about 2 weeks before I made the decision to leave work early and speak with Ashley about it. On the way back, I purchased a bunch of pink roses. Since I had my own key, I opened the door and confronted Rob. I asked him if he had come to discuss the trust or something since I was perplexed. Ashley emerged with 2 luggage from behind him. That's when I realized Rob had 2 suitcases too. "Oh dang," Ashley remarked, glancing at me. "I meant to do this quietly. I was going to leave you a note to inform you that I'm moving out, but I suppose we'll have to do it in person now. I'm leaving you, all right?" "Yes, you heard correctly. And yes, after we get back from our trip to Italy, I'll be moving in with Rob. Your parents ensured that I would receive sufficient funds to cover it. We're divorcing then. Rob will now file for divorce as well. Don't look like a helpless puppy now. Are those flowers for me?" "Thank you. I'll take them. Goodbye." Before I could ask her to wait, they had already left. There was silence after I heard the motor revving up. My wife of 8 years abruptly left me. Is the phrase, "the world crashing down in front of you," familiar to you? Well, that sums up my feelings the best. I didn't leave the house for 2 days. I kept the blinds closed. Cup noodles and chilled meals were my only sources of sustenance. I was afraid of the silence, so I never switched off the TV. I had no desire to take a bath. Someone rang the doorbell on the 3rd day. I assumed they would eventually go if I didn't answer the door, but that didn't happen. Whoever it was pressed the bell longer and harder each time it rang. The ringing continued for several minutes after that. Someone was now hammering on the door. "I know you're in there, open up right now," a woman's voice said. "I won't go until I have a little conversation with you." I assumed it was Ashley, but then I recalled that she and Rob were on vacation in Italy. I felt a new surge of melancholy at the concept. I dragged myself out of bed and began opening the door because the banging and knocking wouldn't stop. A woman with red hair wearing a 2-piece suit was waiting for me when I opened the door. It appeared as though she would eat my head off. "Your wife fled with my husband," she remarked. "It won't assist anyone to sit here and be a wimp. In 15 minutes, get up, take a bath, and enter the living room. We have a lot to discuss." As soon as I didn't answer, she opened the door, met my eyes and said, "You stink." "Okay, Mom," I said before I went to the restroom. "I heard that," she yelled back. I laughed in spite of themselves. After my bath, I felt somewhat human again, and the living room looked immaculate when I got back. The kitchen was no exception. Rob's wife Sandra gave her introduction. She explained that she had been attempting to contact me at my workplace for the past 2 days but was unable to do so, so she ultimately made the decision to come to my house. She was serious. What she was telling me was unbelievable. Sandra claimed that, similar to me, she was unaware that Rob was unfaithful to her. Only 2 days ago, when he left the house and promised to send his assistant to get the rest of his belongings, did she find out. Her world was broken, just like mine was, but she didn't mope about it. She began to dig. She started by looking through Rob's laptop. There, he kept his work belongings, but he was hooked onto Facebook. She quickly combed through his conversations to discover who he was having an affair with. She swooped like a hawk once she was certain. She was very certain that Rob was withdrawing funds for his personal purposes after reviewing all of the documents pertaining to my trust fund. He was being helped by one of the beneficiaries, who was none other than Ashley, so it began little enough to go unnoticed, but ultimately he had grown confident and reckless. Although she wasn't lying, I kind of wanted she was. Sandra was prepared to destroy them because she had all the evidence. Sandra said, "I have a little daughter," while I was still unsure. "I'll get every last dime out of Rob, and I'll completely destroy Ashley. What you believe doesn't matter to me. I only wanted to let you know. If you do not wish to participate, you're under no obligation to do so." She exuded confidence and determination, and I knew from away that I could trust her. I was on board then. We exchanged handshakes. We were working on a scheme that would cost my ex-wife a lot of money while she was on vacation in Italy. Rob and Ashley had returned from their 10-day vacation in Italy. Sandra and I wanted to see how they would react when the penny dropped, so we waited for their call. I had been at work on a Monday when Ashley called. She went on a tirade as soon as I answered. "What on earth is going on? What does Rob mean when he says we're having problems? Where's my money too?" "You mean the money from my parents that Rob used to buy you presents and most likely the apartment you moved into," I said. "I hope my lawyer got back to you. It's Rob's wife Sandra, who also happens to be employed at the company." Before she could utter another thing, I hung up and told her I had to leave. That day, Ashley was waiting outside when I left work. She blocked my path as I proceeded toward my car, pretending not to notice her. I had known her for a long time, but I had never seen her so upset by anything. She requested me to explain things to her since she seemed to be having trouble understanding Rob's nervous account of what happened and wanted to hear it from me in simple terms. I informed her that I had learned about the divorce petition from her attorney. The only difference was that she would not receive a single dime. The expression on her face, oh boy. She never would have imagined that this would be taking place. I saw the panic rising within her. After experiencing a moment of cruel pleasure, I felt a great deal of guilt for placing her in this predicament. It's hard to see someone you care about suffer, and I still loved her. I had to leave as soon as possible to avoid being manipulated by her. I brushed her aside and headed for my car. From behind me I heard her yelling. She was requesting that I stop. How could you do this to me? Was the final thing I heard before getting into the car. I wanted to lash out and tell her that I could ask her the same stupid question because I felt like I was being stabbed. Instead though, I got into my car and left. In my rear view mirror, I could see her, completely confused, taking care of the automobile. Rob, meantime, had received notification that he would be leaving the organization. He was damaging the company's reputation, and it seems that word had gotten out. Since many customers had contacted to request contract termination, firing Rob was the greatest damage control measure the company could take. Sandra arranged for the best counsel because she had several friends who were lawyers. She was confident that she would win the lawsuit and be granted custody. As I drove home, Sandra was providing me with all of these information. I felt a lot lighter. I wrote this up after returning home. I wanted to let out my frustration after my encounter with Ashley. Is Ashley being treated too harshly, in your opinion? Update 1. Hello to everybody. I have an update now. A week has passed. I appreciate you helping me and getting me back up when I was feeling quite lost. I showed him this Reddit article during our first therapy appointment. It's a good coping mechanism, he said. According to him, it's normal to mourn the person you lost, in this case, Ashley, so it makes sense that I would feel extremely overwhelmed once I revealed the truth. I'll try to give you all a summary of what transpired this week. Ashley gave me another call. Her voice was softer this time. She spoke in a muffled voice, as if she had been sobbing. I was asked if I had eaten dinner. Do you want me to come over and cook it for you? She said after I declined. I was surprised. She stated she would be at my house in 30 minutes, so I assumed she interpreted my silence as a yes. No, you won't, I responded, finally finding my voice. Are you serious? You want to come here, make me supper and set up a playhouse after what you did? No, darling, she said. We can talk, even though I know things haven't been well. At the time, I was going crazy. At this moment, I believe I yelled, bad? Do you think what you did was bad? Simply awful? It was evil. It was self-centered and cruel. You're going to hell with it. I would never again want to see your face. What the devil is wrong with you? I felt like throwing up at the next thing she uttered. I should stop overreacting, she said. For me, I believe it marked a turning point. At this time, I saw her true self, a woman who didn't regret her acts at all and would do it all over again in a heartbeat, despite the remorse I had been feeling for hurting her. The call was a trap, an attempt to control me. She was unaware of my realization and continued to complain about how I was portraying her in the lawsuit as a gold digger, even though she was actually making money and had a job. I wanted to let her know that I had paid off all of her student loans, so if she was now living nicely, it was thanks to my family and me. She claimed that the only reason she wanted to visit was because she believed we should have a conversation and reconcile, and that I should drop my case since it was useless. It was impossible for me to refrain from asking, what about Rob? She claimed that Rob was simply different and that she was having an affair with him because he made her boring existence interesting. She then began accusing me of never being there for her and of being away on business. She claimed that she had a passionate romance with Rob, whereas I lacked it greatly. I was suing her rather than offering her an apology. By this time, I was certain she was attempting to bleed my ear. She could have discussed it with me or we could have attended marriage counseling, I informed her, if she had been experiencing so many issues. The answer was never cheating. She started to insist on coming over and change the subject. After hanging up, I dialed Sandra. I explained what had transpired to her. Sandra requested that I call her back and invite her over. I will also come over, she responded. She requested me to comply in order to find out her true intentions. I ended my conversation with Sandra and dialed Ashley instead. When she picked up, she sounded so arrogant. She claimed she will be there in 30 minutes and that she knew I would come around. Sandra arrived before Ashley did. There was not enough time for her to explain her plan, and I was unaware of it. She wanted me to make Ashley sit in the dining room after she went inside. Sandra stated that she would appear in this play in a special capacity. About 40 minutes later, Ashley arrived, and it was clear that she had tried to appear presentable. She did look nice. She entered, gave me a kiss and started to go to the bedroom where Sandra was. I halted her and requested that she take a seat in the dining room. "But why, sweetheart?" She pouted as she turned to face me. "Was it easy for me to forfeit my rights? Was your affection so feeble? Baby, will you not stand up for us?" It was then that Sandra emerged from the bedroom. Ashley muttered something along the lines of, "What the hell?" as she appeared too astonished to talk. Finally, we meet the woman who is dating my useless husband Rob the cheater," Sandra stated with a smirk to Ashley. "You did indeed forfeit your right to the bedroom, I see." Ashley turned to face me and said, "How could you so simply replace me? After stealing all of my joy, you're having an affair with Rob's wife. We owe a lot of money, and now we won't even receive the money from the trust fund. Rob is currently unemployed, and it's unclear who released the information. I could also lose my job. You're incredibly self-centered." "What do you mean we have debts?" Sandra interrupted. "Is it comparable to a joint loan? Are you withdrawing the money and assisting Rob and Miss BL or what?" Ashley swung her around. "Then absolutely, I was. Rob has had my support from the beginning. Do you believe he could have organized such a thing himself? Of course I aided him. Not like you, wicked witch. You have treated him in a condescending manner. He chose me over you for that reason. Leave this place. When your husband is unemployed, how are you able to be here? Why in the world don't you support him and make a statement in his favor?" After giving me a charming smile, Sandra informed me that she believed I should send Ashley home. The task was completed. After receiving the signal, I held the door open for Ashley. Ashley hurled a barrage of insults at us as she walked out. What just happened?" I asked Sandra as she was leaving. Sandra winked at me after pressing stop on a tape. "We got a confession, Aaron," she exclaimed with excitement, her eyes gleaming. "We'll destroy them." She heard me say, "I'm not letting both of them escape. That's Sandra for you, my friends. She is cruel and cunning. I would be afraid of her if I were Rob and Ashley. She simply performs her job too well." Sandra admitted before leaving that she was the one who had clearly leaked the Rob news. I informed her that I was picking up on her intelligence and that I had at least deduced that she was involved. "I'll keep you guys informed. At last, the game is starting. Update 2, I'm back with an update, which I think is a bit early, but I couldn't wait to share it with you all. Sandra is an incredibly vicious murderer." She explained everything in detail and submitted the recording to Ashley's employer. In the note, she stated that someone who would go to such efforts to deceive her loved ones wasn't a trustworthy employee and would likely attempt to steal money from them if she saw a chance. Sandra also had a long-standing friendship with one of Ashley's business colleagues. Sandra's buddy quickly withdrew from a transaction she was about to support, claiming that she had doubts about the reliability of several team members. The agreement was therefore off the table. When Ashley's supervisor heard the news, he was completely distraught. To salvage the deal, they acted quickly and dismissed the offending individual. That's all. My ex-wife was abruptly let go from the corporation. Both of them are currently unemployed and in debt. Sandra informed me that she had been receiving constant calls from Rob. He began messaging her when she didn't answer. She disabled his number and urged him to stop bothering her. "I'm having a great time right now. According to my therapist, who I've been seeing, Ashley ought to serve as a case study on narcissism." That was kind of amusing, lol. After a long time, I burst out laughing. In any case, I'll update you all. Oh, did I mention that Rob had been arrested? Ashley apparently had to take money out of her savings account to cover his bail. Serve them well, lol. For now, goodbye. Update 3. Sandra gave me a call this morning. She was enraged. Rob apparently rang her doorbell intoxicatedly early in the morning and continued to abuse her. The entire incident was captured on her security camera. He tried breaking in when Sandra begged him to leave. Only after Sandra threatened to call the police did he go. The worst part of the entire situation was that Sandra and Rob's daughter, Emily, woke up as a result of all the noise. She witnessed the events and is now traumatized. Children typically suffer after divorce, but witnessing your father go drunk on your doorstep, yelling at your mother, and attempting to break into the house is an entirely different matter. Since then, Emily has refused to leave her room. Sandra needed to go to the police station to file a restraining order, so she asked if I could come over. At such short notice, she was unable to hire a babysitter. I assured her I didn't mind and asked them to call me at work if they needed anything. Sandra went out the door as soon as I arrived. Since Emily hadn't even had breakfast, She advised me to offer her some food if she came out. I went to knock on Emily's room as soon as Sandra left. I got a pin and shattered the lock when no one answered. I have no idea why, but I was feeling suspicious. I was contemplating the worst-case situations during the stillness. I was unable to remain motionless while the youngster was in pain. There was no one in the room when I rushed in, and I was breathing heavily. Then I noticed a slight movement. Emily was concealed beneath the bed. With the exception of her hair, the 3 or 4-year-old daughter looked exactly like her mother and was staring at me with fear in her eyes. She stammered in terror and managed to ask me if Rob had sent me and if I was her dad's buddy. I got down on my knees and said hello. I explained to her that I was actually her mom's friend rather than her father. At that, she appeared to calm down a little. She then began to stare out the window nervously and inquired as to whether her father had left. Since her mother was like a tigress and would do everything in her power to protect her cub, I answered that he was. At that point, she broke down in tears and confided in me about her fear that Rob would break in and harm her mother. I promised her I would never allow that to occur. In addition to losing a parent, this innocent child had witnessed what a terrible monster her father was, and I felt terrible for her. I persuaded her to play her favorite Disney film and come out. I served her some lasagna that I had warmed up. Sandra tells me that Emily was sleeping well on my chest and drooling into her favorite pillow when she returned. Emily clung to my legs and wouldn't let me go that evening when I was ready to go. She sobbed repeatedly before finally admitting that she was afraid Rob would reappear and leave her mother alone. When Sandra rolled her eyes at me, I stopped joking that her mother didn't need to be protected. I stayed the night because I knew it would be very hard to explain a restraining order to a youngster. Emily and I both slept soundly. Sandra served us delicious pancakes the following morning, and I left right away for work. That night, Emily made me swear that I would return to sleep at their place. Well, I suppose that's my life at the moment. Sandra's place is where I have to stay at night. Sandra has yet to find a good child psychologist, despite her best efforts. I'll give you all an update following the initial hearing. Goodbye. Update 4. Well, phew, I guess I haven't given you guys any updates in a while. The initial hearing has concluded. This is what a lay person like me has discovered. Rob and Ashley are completely cooked. Yes, brother, I do mean it. They're barbecue cooked. We have so much damning evidence against them that the matter is really closed. However, given the nature of courts, it is likely to take a long time. Sandra thinks it won't take more than 6 months. She also thinks that they will both be going to jail. Rob and Ashley will definitely not receive any compensation for the divorce. Rob is also required to pay child support. Rob and Ashley were unsuccessful in their employment search. I've learned that Rob works as a janitor at a local club. We witnessed Rob being assaulted by some loan sharks outside the court. For that man, things are looking bleak. He's done. He rushed to Sandra when he saw her outside the court and collapsed at her feet. We now know better, yet he persisted in pleading with her to take him back. According to Sandra's attorney, Rob won't even be granted visitation rights because the case is so strongly in Sandra's favor. My husband cheated and gave me sexually transmitted diseases while I'm pregnant. Am I the asshole for considering abortion? I'm currently 8 weeks into my pregnancy. I had gone for a routine pap smear and STD screening. A few days later, I tested positive for gonorrhea. I had never cheated on my husband, and never expected that he cheated on me. When I confronted him with the test results, he seemed genuinely shocked and insisted that there had to be a mix-up with the results. He swore up and down that he had been faithful and there was no way that it could be true. I insisted that he get tested. He agreed to do it, and as the days passed he admitted that he had met a woman online and had sex with her. He claimed it was a mistake and he couldn't answer why he did it. He said the woman meant doing to him and it was a one-time thing. I'm disgusted and feel betrayed knowing that he put me at such risk. Our pregnancy was planned, so we were actively trying before I got pregnant, and he had no regard for that. The thought of continuing the pregnancy while dealing with this betrayal is overwhelming. I'm considering having an abortion because the idea of bringing a child in the mix is crazy to me. I don't think I can ever forgive him. I feel like crap for thinking of having an abortion. I just can't see myself continuing this marriage and having a baby with him. Relevant comments from OP. I'm already on the verge of losing my mind just from knowing he had unprotected sex with a random woman, risking my life and our unborn baby. I would rather not dig into what he's been up to online, as I think that would cause even more pain for me. Commenter. Does the STD risk the health of the baby? I think many of them do. With that in mind, I would end the pregnancy unless you're in your late 30s or 40s and really think this is your one shot at a child and it's your greatest dream, to the extent of doing it single. Definitely terminate the marriage. He is a slimeball. OP, it was caught early and I was treated. Me and baby are safe. Update. Finally decided to find out the truth about his affair. I figured out my husband's email password and discovered that he's been on dating sites for months. I also found a woman's name and email address from hotel bookings he forwarded to her. I googled her information, found out where she worked and called her. When she picked up, I got scared and hung up, but she called back and we had a long conversation. She said that she didn't know he was married and kept apologizing. She told me that if my husband and I have been intimate in the past few weeks, I should get tested because he gave her an STD. I was shocked because I thought she had given it to him. She said he gaslighted her, making it seem like she got it from someone else. I told her he did the same to me. I didn't mention that I'm pregnant. She said she cut him off and is considering suing him over it. They met on Tinder and had been seeing each other for 6 months. Although I initially thought she should have known he was married, but I believe her because my husband isn't on social media. He has an Insta account but doesn't post pictures. She confirmed that they had sex multiple times, contradicting his claim that it was a one-time thing. She said they spent time in hotels until she felt comfortable inviting him to her apartment. We came to the conclusion that she was just one of the women he was involved with because he gave both of us an STD. Hearing all this made me sick, knowing there are other women. I feel stupid for not realizing what was going on and probably wouldn't have found out if it wasn't for the STD results. My husband doesn't know what I've discovered or that I've spoken to her. This is incredibly tough. I'm heartbroken and conflicted about whether I should schedule an abortion, but finding this out is pushing me towards that decision. Relevant comments. Comment 1. It's heartbreaking that you have to make this choice at all. Until recently, you thought your marriage was intact and this pregnancy was wanted. But I'd really consider whether you want to be tied to this man for the rest of your life and have to co-parent with someone who was this cavalier with your health and well-being. OP, I wish I didn't have to make this tough decision. I don't want to co-parent with him, but at the same time, I feel so bad about having an abortion. My fear is that it might be a big regret that I won't be able to get over. It's so frustrating because each decision is heartbreaking either way. Comment 2. How did she not suspect he was married, even though she had never been to his house or met his important friends and family in 6 months? Remember, the baby is innocent and half of you. OP. She's actually met one of his close friends who's also married, which might mean that his friend is also having an affair. I don't know for sure, but if his friend is okay with meeting my husband's AP, my guess is he too has an AP. I'm pretty sure his wife, who is my friend, doesn't know about this. Comment 3. The most important gift you give your child is an amazing father. It sounds like you have a horrible narcissist on your hands. If you go through with this pregnancy, he will be in your life for the rest of your life and play horrible mind games on you and your child. Going through pregnancy is one of the most vulnerable experiences of your life. When you're pregnant, you risk injury or death. Imagine if something happened to you and your newborn baby was handed to this monster as the sole caretaker of an innocent life. Be thankful you have clarity now while you still have time to make decisions and truly think of your future. You can't trust anything he says about improving. He is capable and willing to lie without remorse. If he feels badly, it's just that he feels bad for getting caught, not for cheating. OP. If I decide to go through with this pregnancy, I would want nothing to do with him and would prefer that he not be part of this experience or the child's life. I know that's selfish to say, and it's also impossible because he will make our lives hell.